The moment I saw her at the airport lounge, I knew. It wasn't just the way her fingers fidgeted with the strap of her bag, or the nervous glance she kept casting toward the departures board. It was in her eyes, those eyes that had once looked at me with unwavering trust, now avoiding mine as if I were an inconvenient truth. "Are you really going?" I asked, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. She looked up, smiled, just enough to convince a stranger she was excited for her trip. "Yes. It's just a short trip for work, nothing more," she said, her tone casual, rehearsed. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the tiny inconsistencies, the way she couldn't meet my gaze, the little tremor in her voice, the sudden urgency to check her phone, set off alarms I couldn't ignore. "Work? Really?" I asked, forcing calm into my tone. "Which client? You didn't mention this to me yesterday." She hesitated. And in that hesitation my heart sank. "It came up late. I didn't want to worry you," she said finally. Her words were soft, but there was a hesitation between them, a fracture I couldn't ignore. I studied her. The woman I had married, the one I had trusted with my entire life, seemed to shrink under my scrutiny. And yet, there was a defiance there too, a quiet insistence that she wouldn't let me interfere. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Okay," I said, my voice quieter now, almost distant. "Then I'll drop you off. But, tell me when you land." She nodded, slipping past me toward the security gates, leaving behind a trail of perfume and 1,000 unspoken words. My chest tightened. Something inside me told me I couldn't let this go. But I did. I let her sail, knowing the next hour might change everything. It was a mistake I would regret. I returned home to the emptiness of our apartment, the kind of silence that presses against your chest until you can barely breathe. My phone buzzed. First a message from a colleague, then another, and then an email notification. I ignored them all. My mind was elsewhere, replaying every glance, every word, every hesitation from the airport. By mid-afternoon, curiosity gnawed at me. I picked up her phone. It was left on the kitchen counter, unattended in her rush. Normally, I would never have touched it, not out of respect, not out of trust. But something had shifted. The tiny, cold suspicion that had been whispering in my mind for weeks had grown into a roar. I opened her messages, and the first thread I saw made my stomach drop. Her name wasn't on it, at least not her own. But there it was, a name I had never heard her mention. Words filled with affection, longing, intimacy. Words that were never meant for me. And as I scrolled, the truth became undeniable. She had lied about the trip. Each message was a dagger. "I can't wait to see you tonight. You're the only one I want. I miss you more than I can say." The casual way she had promised me just work was a lie. A carefully constructed story to mask something that had been growing for months. I put the phone down, my hands shaking. My head was a storm of anger, disbelief, heartbreak. Every memory of our life together felt tainted, every laugh now a cruel echo of a happiness that had never truly been mine. Then her phone rang. A call she had been expecting. And I did something I never imagined I could do. I answered. "Hello," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Hey, it's me," said a familiar voice on the other end. Smooth, casual, intimate. My chest tightened. "I think you need to stop calling her," I said, each word deliberate, measured. "She's married. And she's coming home in a few days. Or, she's supposed to." There was a pause. And then a sharp, almost incredulous laugh. "And you are her husband," I said, and the line went silent. I hung up, feeling a hollow satisfaction. But it didn't ease the pain. It didn't erase the fact that she had been two places at once in my mind. My wife, the woman I trusted, and someone entirely unrecognizable, betraying every vow we had made. Hours passed. I didn't move from the couch. Every sound, the hum of the fridge, the occasional car passing outside, even the ticking of the wall clock, felt exaggerated, accusing. Then the door opened. She was home. The casual smile she gave me as she stepped inside felt like a slap to the face. "Hey, you're still here," she asked, feigning innocence. Where were you really? I asked, my voice calm but cold, the kind of calm that masks a storm underneath. She froze, her eyes darting to the phone she had left behind, realizing immediately that I had seen. It was just. No, I said, standing up, trying to steady my shaking hands. Don't. Just don't. I know everything. Her face went pale. For a moment I saw fear. Not fear for herself, but fear of losing control over the narrative she had tried to maintain. I can explain, she said, her voice trembling now. I didn't mean for it to. I didn't. Explain. I interrupted, voice rising slightly but controlled. You lied to me. You lied about where you were going. You lied to my face. You lied to my trust. Do you even know what that does to a person? Her eyes filled with tears, but it wasn't remorse. It was panic. I made a mistake, she whispered, almost inaudible. I didn't know how to stop it. I love you, I do, but you love me? I asked, laughing bitterly. You love me. Love doesn't come with deceit. Love doesn't sneak behind someone's back while smiling at their face. Love doesn't this, I said, gesturing helplessly at the space between us, heavy with betrayal. She sobbed, words failing her. I didn't move toward her. Couldn't. My body felt like stone, heavy and immovable, while my heart fractured piece by piece. The night stretched endlessly. She tried to reach for me, and I recoiled. We didn't sleep. We didn't speak. And yet, every so often, our eyes met, mine filled with sorrow and accusation, hers with guilt and fear. The next morning I made a decision. I wouldn't shout. I wouldn't beg. I would let her realize the weight of her actions. I left her a note on the kitchen table. We need space. I can't be with someone who chooses lies over love. Figure out who you are and then we can talk. I left the apartment, walking aimlessly through the streets. Everything felt surreal. The sun shone, people laughed, the world moved on, and yet my world had collapsed. Later that day, her phone rang endlessly. She answered, desperate. Messages poured in from the person she had chosen over me. And I imagined the frustration, the panic in her voice, the realization that the life she had tried to juggle was falling apart. And in that moment, I understood something crucial. Betrayal doesn't just hurt the person betrayed. It destroys the betrayer too. And though I was wounded beyond measure, a strange clarity settled over me. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to chase her. The truth, silent and brutal, had already done the work. Days later we spoke again. Not like before. Not with warmth or intimacy. Just words, cautious and cold. She begged for forgiveness. I listened, my heart heavy, my trust shattered. I didn't know if we could rebuild. I didn't know if I wanted to. But I did know one thing. Love without honesty is no longer love. Survival, illusion, and a slow death of the soul. And as I watched her leave once more, this time with no airport lies, no rehearsed smiles, I felt a final sting, a last pang of grief. But I also felt a strange relief. The truth had been revealed. And for the first time in weeks I could breathe again. Betrayal had come like a storm, ruthless and unrelenting. But storms pass. And though the scars remain, the heart learns to heal, piece by piece, with the knowledge that the world may betray you, but it cannot take your dignity, your awareness, or your capacity to rise again.